Well, it looks like we're not going to be getting a ban on non-compete clauses after all. That's because the rule scheduled to take effect in early September was just struck down by a federal judge in Texas. This is the third federal judge to rule on this issue. One federal judge in Pennsylvania upheld the ban on non-competes, and another judge in Florida blocked the ban, but only for the plaintiffs who were suing. But this Texas ruling blocks the ban on non-competes from taking effect nationwide. Now, I have been telling you since last year that the Federal Trade Commission has been working on banning companies from enforcing employees to sign new non-compete employment contracts and makes existing non-compete contracts invalid. That rule would have impacted an estimated 30 million workers. Now, for those of you who don't know, lots of employees in the United States have to sign these non-compete contracts, which prevent them from either taking another job with a rival company or from starting a competing business. Now, sometimes non-competes have a time limitation, like you can't do either of those things for like 2 years after you leave a company. And a handful of states do ban non-competes, and most states have some sort of limitation on them. But this FTC rule, if it was allowed to take effect, would have banned them nationwide. Well, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and several other business organizations sued. And yesterday, a federal judge agreed with them, saying two things. One, the FTC overstepped its authority by even creating this rule. And two, this rule is overly broad. The FTC was arguing that under the power given to the agency by Congress in the FTC Act of 1914 and expanded by Congress in 1938 and 1980, they had every right to categorize non-compete contracts as unfair methods of competition. The judge disagreed, saying the court concludes the FTC has some authority to promulgate rules to preclude unfair methods of competition. However, after reviewing the text, structure, and history of the act, the court concludes the FTC lacks the authority to create substantive rules through this method. Basically, the judge is saying, yeah, Congress did give you FTC these kinds of powers, but this rule just was too much. The FTC says it based the rule on state laws that already ban or restrict non-competes. However, the judge's ruling says this rule goes too far because the evidence found by the FTC does not match the rule they created. She said, the rule is based on inconsistent and flawed empirical evidence, fails to consider the positive benefits of non-compete agreements, and disregards the substantial body of evidence supporting these agreements. So what does this mean for you? Well, if you live in a state with some form of restriction or ban on non-competes, that will stay. But if you don't live in one of those states and you currently have a non-compete at your job, that will stand. And you can still be asked to sign a non-compete in a state that doesn't already have restrictions on them. The FTC says they are now considering appealing this decision.